The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, thank you for tuning in. I think one of the responsibilities we have as a radio station is to enable our candidates running for office, local or otherwise, to be able to have an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. Our next guest doesn't really need an introduction. He is Carl Zalak III. He's been our county commissioner now for a while, and he wants to continue being our county commissioner for District 4. He's in the studio today to talk to us about his candidacy. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Larry. How are you?
See you.
I'm doing fantastic.
Last time I saw you, you were at fireworks. We were watching.
Yeah, we were watching the fireworks for 4th of July, right out on top of the world. What a great show!
Oh my god!
They put on a phenomenal show, and you get to be right underneath them, and the concerts going on, and the Navy band, and you got to love our community.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
How's your family?
They're much better than I deserve, and my wife's still putting up with me, so it's excellent.
The people with you at the 4th of July thing, was that your family?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have my son is now 12 years old already. It's just incredible, and I got a 10-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So
good for you.
We are certainly busy.
So how long have you been a county commissioner?
This is my 8th year.
8th year. Okay. And you want to do it again?
Yeah.
So
try to finish the mission. I got elected, during the recession, and really wanted to help my community, and I thought that when you put business guys that have run small businesses and signed the front of paychecks and made the risk and taken all those things, and you try to put them in office, hopefully we can make some really good decisions. And I think we've demonstrated as a board coming together and really tackling some very tough issues over the time. I mean, you and I remember we talked about this last time, the unemployment rate being over 14.3%, when we got into office. I mean, wow. And we almost kind of have forgotten it, but we as Americans have such short-term memories, right?
Yeah, we do.
And it's taken a lot of work to get, places like FedEx and Chewy and AutoZone and all of those things. And it's taken us years, but we can start to see some of that economic development paying off. Other companies like TruckXL.com, Cardinal Glass doubling, McLean coming. We have had success after success, and I'm not tired of winning yet.
One of the mistakes we, the public, makes is we think it's the federal government or the state government that is supposed to be bringing jobs to a community.
Sure.
And while they play a role, I think you have shown us that the real work gets done at the local level. Well,
and certainly between the local government and whoever might be developing the property, right? So, in the case of 489, where FedEx and all of those companies are, we played a big role in, because we agreed once they signed a contract with the vendor. We didn't know it was FedEx at the time, but once they signed a contract for the $120 million dollar investment in capital, the hundreds of jobs, and quite frankly, it'll be thousands of jobs over the next 5 years out there, those places. That we would do certain things, right? We would run, the city would run the fiber and the utilities, and we would run part of the road, and all of that. All of those things came together based on a local agreement of all the parties agreeing how we would facilitate the infrastructure once there was a real customer at the other end.
Did you, once you took office, the candidates don't always have the incumbent experience that you have, so you have that, and I wanted to ask you based on that. Once you took office and you started hearing from constituents, did it change your focus at all?
Well, certainly when I got into office, I had a 100-day plan, right? I wanted to make sure that because of the economy, we kept impact fees out of the picture and continue the moratorium on them. I wanted to solve solid waste, and I wanted to take a look at regulation that was impacting the way we were developing our community and how that was being played out. So we did all three of those things, and I focused on that very hard the first 100 days, including the solid waste plan that's going to save us, somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million over the next 30 years, which is a ton of money.
Right.
Just an incredible deal that we quite frankly got fortunate and struck that right balance and hit the thing at the right time, and it worked out to be a significant win for Marion County and will be over the long term. But then after that, then you're focusing on, does somebody have a problem with a building permit and can't get it resolved, and we need to sit down and have them talk to the right people, right? What are we doing with Silver Springs? I mean, you start to hear about those kind of things. How do we, we've lost firefighters over the last few years. How do we keep a solid recruitment?
Talk about that. You did something that helped at least one person I know come back to Marion County.
Right, and you personally know, right? I mean, that the things we've done especially over the last year, have really helped. We've signed agreements with the unions, and it's been very difficult, right? We had to, during the recession, we had to pause the technical ladder, right? People couldn't promote the way they were in the past, and we had to make some really tough decisions during the recession.
Right.
But as the economy recovered, we didn't lay anybody off. People left, right? And so we were one of those places that were just really hard to figure out what the next move was, and we couldn't pay what the market rate was, kind of across part of the state, because we were just in such a deep recession, especially in Marion County. It was only us and one other county, hardest hit counties in the state, and no one else was experiencing quite that kind of depreciation of assets. And we lost over $20 plus million in valuation of our properties, and just like anyone else, I mean, when you have a homesteaded property and it goes back and typically in a foreclosure and you lose 30% on that home, you can't regain that because it goes back into a homesteaded on your account. Mm-hmm. So you can only get 3% a year. So how long does it take you to make up 30 years when you take one of these big swaths of value out of the economy?
Wow.
And that really affects property values, and that's how local governments are run,
what
right?
You have to work on, right?
Yeah, and so, but what we were able to do is go back, reopen up a negotiation with the firefighters. We gave them a $3.43 raise for EMT paramedic firefighters, because we were specifically worried, and I think our community was specifically worried about making sure that we had people on the back of ambulances that could answer the call and had experience.
That's right.
And because one of the most important things for your family and my family is that when that emergency happens or that vehicle accident happens, that we have the right medical professional. 80+% of our calls are medical, right? They're not fires, although we do get fires. 80% of what we do is medical call and making sure that we have the right paramedics on there. So we took the leap. We were able to, I think we'll be able to balance this budget. We're in that process even today. As we leave here, we'll be going back into budget workshops to make sure that we pass a balanced, fair budget for Marion County. And so that success of being able now to recruit firefighters and to get some of the very best to come back to Marion County, that's a huge win.
I want to ask you about the new equestrian center, and if I could ask you, because that is about the horse industry as a whole,
right.
If you could also talk about, and this is a big topic, I know it's kind of on hold right now, I'm not sure, the connector line for the Suncoast Parkway that was supposed to come through Marion County. If you could talk about that in conjunction with the Florida Horse Equestrian Center.
Sure. So let's take the Coastal Connector first. That is supposed to be, or is proposed as a east-west corridor connecting Tampa to Jacksonville, and they wanted to come right through basically the heart of our farmland preservation and our horse farms and our breeding farms. And so we got right to work as soon as we kind of figured out exactly where they wanted these routes, talking about these routes, hearing from our constituents. I mean, they were absolutely against this project. We've written a resolution to the governor. We've written multiple letters and getting comments back from DOT about removing these lines. I mean, because at the end, we don't want that to go through Marion County. We certainly don't want it to go through the heart of our horse farms, right? And so they came with the process of saying, okay, well, these might be evacuation routes and help people move better, and of course we're conscious of storms and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, when you live on a peninsula, you don't build east-west corridors to get out of the state and relieve for hurricanes, right? You build north-south exits, right?
Except, and not to argue with you, but it's more southwest to northeast. It is south to north. I
mean, at some level, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not really east and west. And it is a toll road. So talk about the equestrian center.
Sure. So Mr. Roberts has significantly put in a tremendous amount of investment in the community and raised the bar, basically building the Super Bowl stadium, if you will, of equestrian events. I mean, with over 400,000 square foot of auditorium, 19 barns, hotels, and everything else. And in fact, in our evaluation from the Tourist Development Board, Mr. Roberts ended up coming up number one for starting to negotiate, and we're looking at actually building with him a convention center to be part of this World Equestrian Center, just to continue to add to the elements and destination of this phenomenal site. So it's a real blessing to have that.
That will be north of the airport? Is that where
that'll be off of 80th, right, and kind of, what is that? That is just south of the Golden Ocala.
Okay, all right.
So I mean,
a little bit
basically,
north of the airport then, right?
Yeah. So basically, the entire facility looks will go from where Golden Ocala's out on Highway 27 and 80th all the way to Highway 40.
So we'll see hotels out there.
You'll see hotels. You'll see all kinds of stuff out there.
Speaking of hotels, I want to ask you, because you mentioned Silver Springs earlier.
Yeah.
I was in Rainbow Springs not too long ago, and
Sure.
I lived in Denellen for a long time when I was younger. And I was amazed to see how thriving Denellen is, and this brand new, beautiful hotel back there behind what's that little drive-through restaurant, Sonic's. And I thought, wow, and this is all according to them, because the swimming opportunities in Rainbow Springs.
Yep.
So is there and right now, if you look at Silver Springs, it needs help. Not the park. The park, you could debate about that, but I'm talking about the city or the municipality of Silver Springs. Both areas under your, it's a part of your constituency.
Sure.
So is there any plan, and do you think it would help if we allowed swimming in Silver Springs?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that are at play at Silver Springs. First, the state management plan for the park, right? The state owns it. The state is now managing it. It is under their purview, and they want to basically make it more of a and have wanted to kind of more of a passive park, right? We have been wanting to and even applied for concessionaire permits and all kinds of things, and they have not given that to us, where we want to add some livelihood to it, almost similar to what you would do maybe even in a downtown, right?
What would do that? More than swimming. Swimming is the thing that would do that.
Swimming is a huge part, but they don't want us to swim in the head spring.
Why not? Do they give you a reason?
They give us reasons that don't really work, right? They try to say things like, we don't want the edge of the spring here to fall in, and it's not like it used to be, and it's too close to the boats, and it's and then we take out pictures from 1960 and show them, well, it's amazing that glass bottom boats and people swam for decades. So none of those things really work from that plan. What they want to do is move about a quarter mile from the head spring or so down and create a swimming hole, if you will, in a whole area where they can have lots of people. Part of the problem is at the head spring is that there is a capacity issue, right? So from their perspective, they don't think they could fit everybody in the head spring. I said, I totally get that. You can put a capacity number, right? 100 people, 200 people, whatever the number is.
They do it at the other ones that have swimming.
Right. I mean, put a capacity number on that area and create the other swimming hole area if there's that much demand,
That's
right?
it, absolutely.
But why why not allow that to happen, right? I mean, today, 90% of the time when you go in there, you can hit a golf ball and not hit anybody. That's a travesty, right?
It is.
And
it is.
One of the best things we could do for springs and spring care and people caring about the springs and what happens to them is to let them love it and enjoy it and be part of it, right? The people I know that are most passionate, when they were kids, swam in the springs.
And if you opened it up for swimming, you would have traffic there that would bring money there. It would benefit the entire community, just as Rainbow Springs swimming has benefited Denellen.
And they've taken away our ability to use wild waters because of its, kind of defunct.
That's a little different,
right? But I'm saying,
it'd be nice, yeah.
If you have a plan and you're running the park and you shut down wild waters, why isn't the first thing you do is open up a swimming hole or something?
Yeah, there's
right. I mean, why is that not
so let me ask you this. I don't want to be too stuck on this because I want to go elsewhere. But real quickly, is there any way from a county perspective that we can persuade the state people who are controlling it to see it our way?
Yeah, and we continue to lobby, but at the end of the day, unless you can get a bill passed that mandates it, or the governor is just on your side and says, DEP, go do this, and those are the things we've been working on, but it's just not risen to the priority level. We'll continue to work on it because it's in my district. I love it, and I don't think it's being run well.
I can't tell you how many listeners have said, I will vote for whoever says they're going to open up Silver Springs for swimming.
Yeah.
You can talk about the budget all you want, but swimming at Silver Springs is more important.
And it needs to happen.
All right. One question, and this is Silver Springs related, the water rights. Talk about that a little bit. And if you could, the rising and the up and down of the water levels, is that being influenced by the general public? Is it being influenced by misuse? What's going on with that?
So there are always two thought processes in water, right? It's quality and quantity. Most of the reason why quantity is an issue is because of rain, right? I mean, most of it's flow. But part of it is also, back from when we had the Greenway and kind of this barge canal thought process, and the federal government put in these different locks, right? So you have a lockdown at Moss Bluff and you have a lockdown up at Rodman. Those two locks do control water and flow and how the system overall works. Typically, in my opinion, Moss Bluff is a little bit over or underused. It kind of just depends on the time of year. But what they do is they artificially elevate the lakes in Lake County. And lots of people live on those, and if you put the water level down too much, it really starts to become a public cry. The problem with that, though, is that water would naturally flow and keep a consistent flow through, where Silver Springs and the Ocklawaha River join. So then that whole ecosystem gets affected downriver because it doesn't have enough flow, especially in times of drought. And that's what we've seen. It also affects water erosion, side erosion of the river, and many other things, including animal species. And the same for the Rodman. The Rodman, of course, doesn't really put back pressure like many people think on the spring, which reduces flow because it's actually down elevation. But it does keep species from being able to move back and forth at the same quantity as they did, back in the steamboat days, if you will. So those man-made structures affect nature, no doubt about it. And then the other piece of it is fertilizer, septic tanks, and just human beings living in and around and developing in and around, right? And we know that, the good Lord above is constantly changing the structure underneath of our aquifer and the caves and the sinkholes and all those things. So it makes a big difference, and those two things are affecting it. But we have BMAPs in process, which are basin management plans, and those plans will continue to help our water quality and water flow get better over time.
Carl Zalak is who you're listening to. He's running to retain his office with the county commission on seat number. What seat are you in?
4. District 4.
District 4, you're running as a Republican, and you have demonstrated in this little interview how well, and I've already known this about you, but how well you know your job. So that's a big gold star right there. Do you have a website we can go to learn more about you?
Absolutely. So join me on Facebook and also votezalak.com.
Easy enough. Zalak, right?
Zalak.
All right. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks. I appreciate being on the show.
We'll be right back.
You're thinking about selling your home, but where do you start? Easy. Call Angie at 352-361